Hello, my name is Renate McNay, and you're watching Conscious TV. My guest today is Halina Pytlasinska.
Hello. Hello.
And we have another talk on non-duality. So Halina, we would like to know all about non-duality and what happened to you, what brought you in this space or place where we all want to be. Where's our home?
Well, the ironic thing is that now that I found this space, I realised that I was always there and we are always in this space.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like that when there's the belief that there is separation. And non-duality really is about realising that there is no separation. There's no separation between you and me, the table, the room, everything in the world is one energy. And that's all non-duality is really. And it's how we are, whether we realise it or not, as apparent personalities, as apparent bodies in the world. That's how reality is underneath.
So another word for this is to be enlightened.
Yes.
Would you say I am enlightened?
No. Enlightenment is really a myth. The problem with non-duality, or the perspective that there is oneness, is that it's beyond words really.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of doing our best with words to get close to it, but we'll never fully describe it with words. And the myth about enlightenment is that there can be a special enlightened person, a guru, a special figure, a saintly, holy, special person, and that isn't how it is. So there is no person to be enlightened. All it is the realisation that there is no separation. So
Right.
There cannot ever be an enlightened person. There is just realisation that there is no separation.
Mm-hmm. So what was actually leading to this realization? What happened in your life? Did you have a teacher? You were telling me on the phone when we spoke already as a child, you had experiences of your identity was gone. And that happened several times. How did you feel, and did you talk with anybody about it, or did it frighten you?
Okay, well, as a child, it felt as if I didn't at times quite understand the game that everybody else was playing, the story of me. The identity, as in all children, wasn't really formed yet. So there's memories of being a child sitting in the garden. My sister was 9 years older than me, so I spent a lot of time on my own. So I was brought up like an only child. So there's a lot of time playing on my own with dolls and teddies. And now and again, there'd be the sense that there was no identity. I mean, as a child, that's not what the child, this isn't the child's voice, as the adult looking back. But it felt as if there was an expansion, as an expandedness, and there was a sensation of being outside of the body, not moving outside the body, but that what I was outside the body. And it was a kind of feeling of floating almost, but there was a feeling of formlessness. That's very difficult to imagine, but there was no form. There was no skin that surrounded me, and there was no me. Mm-hmm. And so those moments would come and go, and usually, I don't know how long they lasted really. As a child, seemed to last for a long time, probably only a few minutes really. And usually at the end of that few minutes, there was fear. Mm-hmm. But hang on, there's just this sort of formlessness. And then it felt like I had to kind of rebuild this identity. I'm a little girl, and the people in the house at the end of the garden are my parents. So that seemed to happen. And as I got older and older, that identity became stronger and stronger. And in my teens, I felt I wanted it to be stronger and stronger, to be more of a solid person. But it never felt very solid. It always felt quite shaky.
Mm-hmm. So did you actually go to your parents and say...
No. No, I never talked to anyone. It felt that it wouldn't be okay to talk about it. And there were no words, really.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing in the adults' world I didn't feel that could sort of relate to that. Or,
right.
There was no one. It didn't feel right to talk about it.
Yes.
And it felt like just some sort of childish thing. It felt like, so I never mentioned it to anyone.
Yeah. And you said you became a seeker, a spiritual seeker, when you were 12.
Yes, I was brought up in a Catholic household. I think you were as well. And so going to church was something that my family did, and I didn't relate to anything that was going on in the church, really. So I rebelled, I think, and I said, "Oh, I'm not going anymore. I don't believe in this sort of God that's very angry with us, who wants to punish me." And I just didn't feel that Catholicism was for me, really.
Yes.
And so I stopped going to church, and my parents were quite angry with me. And then I started reading as a teenager about other religions. I read about Hinduism and Sikhism and Buddhism, and so, in my in my 20s, later teens, I was attracted to Buddhism, and I became a Buddhist in my 20s. But that's just the story about this character. None of it really relates to the fact that there's no separation. It only is a story, and there might be other stories in other people's cases, but none of it is relevant really to the fact that underneath there is just a one being. But this is the story of Halina trying to find it, thinking that she's separate.
Yes, I understand it.
Yeah.
And yet, you have a son who is 9 years old.
He's 7. He's
7. And yet you have to somehow help build his story. That seems to be a very important part, play an important part in and enables us to live the life in this world.
Yes, the story just goes on, and I think we were saying before, like mothering goes on. What he is, underlying what everybody else is the emptiness.
Yes.
And there seems to appear a little boy, and there seems to appear a mother, and the story and the characters just go on as before.